Okay, hello YouTube. This game confused me endlessly. I didn't understand this game. I played a child. I think he was a child. He's probably a teenager. I don't know. This was the morning after the game where I played the guy who was allegedly 2200, and I had the white pieces, and I was pretty sad and pretty annoyed with myself. I think I tried a little bit harder in this game, which made this game more painful because I was trying to be less lazy, because I wanted to learn something from the last game and not just continue down the path. But sometimes it doesn't matter how hard you try or something. In the end, it's all about Alright, so another Catalan type thing. He plays the same thing that my second round opponent did, or at least similar, except it's different because I didn't play knight c3, I played g3. And it's also different for other reasons, but he played bishop d6. And I was putting in the fucking work in this game. I wasn't being lazy. I wasn't making just random moves in the opening and just trying to get to a position. I was like, bishop d6, bishop d6. Does he want to do a stone wall? You know, I was really trying to think and like where the correct, places for my pieces would be to really make sense against his specific moves and not just playing moves that are good in general. I mean, castles is good in general. And I was expecting knight e4 because it makes sense. I don't know, I feel like when they put their bishop on d6 they do this type of weird shit. But he didn't. He just played knight d7. And I went knight d2. And castles and knight d2 were both the best moves. I mean, but this is logical. Now it's actually quite difficult for him to play this move. Not that I really cared if he did in the first place. He castles, I go queen c2, supporting the e4 squares, supporting c4, I can play b3, bishop e2, I can do a lot of things. Rook e8. Rook e8, I feel like he wants to play e5, is what he wants, right? That seems like it makes sense. So, I played the move e4, and my little idea is that he takes this way and I go knight g5. Allegedly Wojo style is how it was described to me. But I don't know, if he takes with the knight, then this is fine. Maybe queen h4, maybe queen d3, maybe queen c2. I don't know. It's an open position. I have the bishop. I go. Bishop go with room or something. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of make a move in the center before he did and kind of be in charge of the situation. So I go knight g5, h6, knight takes e4, bishop c7. So here I got a little too creative, a little too fancy, if you will. I think I should, if I was doing the thing where I just play like normal automatic moves, I probably would have played rook d1, which is a pretty good move. But this time I was thinking a little too much in the opening. Again, because I was trying not to be lazy. But it kind of like led me down a spiral of just like weird Sarah chess. Yes, Wojo is our Lord and Savior. F4 is also a good move, which makes sense, but that's a commitment. I don't do that. I played the move knight c3 with idea in mind. Alright, so it looks like a very weird move, but I had ideas behind it, and that's all that matters. As long as I have a reason for my moves, that's all that matters, because then I can learn from it, because they're my ideas. Okay? So I didn't really love the idea of the whole reason I went with knight, like playing e4 early and knight g5, instead of just taking here, I could do this. I just kind of didn't love the idea of letting him put, you know, his knight on f6 for free, like with a tempo. And removing his knight from the d7 square. I feel like the knight is better here. So that is why I did this, was so I could keep a knight on e4. However, if I play like almost any move, he's either gonna play c5 or e5, and then I don't know what the hell is going on there. Like, I'm moving my knight away from the square I wanted it on, but I had an idea. So if I do nothing, right? If I do nothing, he's gonna play e5, and this is gonna be a target. Like, I kind of want to play d5, but I can't because of things. Knight c3, basically my idea is that it's sort of preparing for both c5 and e5 because it supports d5 in two ways, and makes, hopefully, a break in the center harder to pull off. My second idea, you may be wondering, and it's true, this is a good way to prevent e5 and c5. If he plays e5 now, I can play d5 comfortably. And I like my position here. It's probably like equal, but I'd probably take white. Seems pretty good. And then if c5 again, I mean, here this just doesn't really make sense. That would only be a move if, I don't know, for some reason I'm preventing e5 and make this good. I'm gonna just ignore this and just play knight b3. This development is difficult. But my second idea is after knight b6, right, he's attacking the d-pawn. I wanted to sack this d-pawn for piece activity. I wanted to do like a fancy little Catalan pawn sacrifice for activity, which is actually a good idea here. I just didn't implement it exactly right. I played the move b3. Preparing for queen takes d4, and it's not bad. It's not necessary. I think that's what it is. It's not bad. It could even be considered like pretty interesting and good, but it is completely unnecessary to give up a pawn when I don't have to, when I was already like pretty comfortable. But in order for me to not be lazy and not care, I have to find the position interesting, and this is what was interesting to me at the time. So this is what I went for. I don't really know, I have like a strong opinion on whether that was the right thing to do or not. I think it was a fine thing to do. I think this game was actually very fun, regardless of the result. I think instead rook d1 is a little bit better, because if queen takes d4 here, I already play knight e4, and I'm going to take on f6 and take on h6. And if queen e5, I have bishop f4 just winning. So he actually can't take on d4 here. But then he plays something like queen e7 or e5 right away. And then this doesn't look good for me. Apparently it's fine. Like knight f3. I don't know. I wanted more. I wanted more. I played b3, queen takes d4, and bishop b2. And again, I have this idea of playing knight c to e4, and then taking on f6 and messing up his pawns and just killing him with my bishops. That's actually a huge threat. If it is white to play, I think that black is lost after knight c to e4. So the question becomes, where should black put the queen? And it's actually kind of an important question. So where would chat put your queen? Does the engine find it interesting? The engine says it's like equal, and it was already equal. So if I can give up a pawn and the evaluation doesn't change, that sounds kind of interesting to me. Yeah, I feel like my bishops are really good. I also kind of lured the knight to b6 and then shut it down with b3. And I just thought that it looked kind of pretty, because the knight is dead. And in order to get the knight less dead, it has to get in the bishop's way. And these two pieces are fighting for squares. And then, like, none of his pieces have good squares. And all of mine are beautifully placed. And his best looking piece is kind of a target. If I weren't down a pawn, I'd probably be winning. That's compensation. So, queen d8, honestly. So, Queen d8's probably fine. I probably would have responded in the exact same way as I did versus his move. Black should play queen g4. This is the only, like, good move here. Now, if you ask me to explain this, I would probably try and fail. I think maybe it just wants to... The queen is so clumsy in this position. The reason I felt this was so justified was because when I looked at this position from the black side, I was having a terrible time trying to figure out where to put the queen. I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna let him make that decision. Queen g4, I don't understand why it's so great. The only thing I can maybe think of is it's sort of a defensive thing. And it's still controlling the e4 square. Maybe he wants to play e5, and I don't know, really, if I'm being honest. I don't see why this move is so much better than the other ones. They all seem sort of the same to me. My opponent played queen c5. And I could play knight e4 right away, like either knight, probably the c knight. But I really liked a4 first. Because, number one, bishop a3 is super, super annoying. I'm kind of preventing him from moving his queen backwards because it would have to end up on the d file, and then it's even more clumsy. I'm also threatening to push his knight around and just advance the pawn all the way to a6 and break this open. And then it becomes like a queenside attack. Like, I'm threatening to attack on the queen side and the king side. So a5 is sort of a natural response. But now I go knight e4. And this is forced, because if he does anything else, obviously I take twice on f6, and his pawn structure near his king is horrendous. All of my pieces can easily come into the attack, and all of his pieces are on the wrong side of the board to defend. So he has to take. Knight takes e4. And he goes queen f5, which is, I think, a mistake. I think I got a little lazy here, maybe, but also I didn't want to get really low on time. It's really difficult to find a middle ground. What am I talking about? I don't know. So I don't know. A good position to say, like, what would you play here? I think there are a few good options. I don't think what I did was terrible, but it wasn't I don't think I took into account that he could ever be fine. I kind of just thought his position would always be bad and he would be groveling for a draw. Like, I didn't anticipate some things. So just rook d1. It's not that simple. Which rook? Honestly, you could spend at least 5 minutes here deciding which rook to put on which square. Because when you commit one rook to a square, you're kind of committing the other one somewhere else. You want to put the f rook on d1. Why? What the hell is the a rook doing? C file. Why does the rook go to the c file? What break or possible open file is it getting? George. Yeah, George. Okay. Sweet summer child. Defend the queen. Okay. I mean, I guess if you, like, I would consider f4. I would consider f4 too, but again, it's a big commitment. I didn't, like, I just wanted to play a simple, natural move and let him keep going down on the clock, because he was using a lot of time here. Like, I ended up having, like, a minimum of 20-minute time advantage the entire time. And I kind of wanted to not allow him to think too much on my turn either. Rook e1. Again, which rook? I don't fucking understand. I'm gonna explain it, but I didn't think it was obvious. Nicole liked f4. Yeah, I liked f4 too, but it feels like it requires thought. but it makes sense. So I played the move rook f to e1, which is not great. I kind of assumed I was putting a rook on d1, because it's the only open file. But like, what is the rook doing on d1, you know? I don't know. Rook a to e1 would be the best thing to do here, and keep the other rook on f1. Because while I didn't want to think about f4 now, I'm gonna have to think about it eventually. I'm probably gonna play it eventually. I might as well play it now, but like, I should keep the option to play f4 open. But at the same time, I thought if I played rook a to e1, that's really narrowing down my options for my f rook, and then I have to commit to f4. I sort of just played this move because it's like, I'm actually threatening knight f6 here, by the way. And I thought he was just like really close to lost. Like, make random move. Knight f6 check is just completely winning because of this. So he has to find a way to defend against that without weakening something else. So I thought rook e1 was just kind of a good way to keep the pressure on. So he went bishop d7, which defends his rook, so in turn defends against knight f6. I go queen c3. And what do we think the evaluation is here? I'm very curious what the fans think, because I misevaluated this, I think. All right, everyone's putting in number evaluations. I meant more like equal, slightly better, slightly worse, winning, that type of thing. It is equal. It's at a very low depth, but at a very low depth, it says minus 0.1. Black is, like, I don't believe that black is slightly better, but right now it thinks that. Right now it doesn't think that anymore. It's equal still. But look at how fucked up his pieces are, and look how good mine are. I have to remember, I'm down a pawn. I'm down a pawn here, and it's equal. But it's still kind of hard for me to believe that black is okay here. I think I really overvalue these type of like really good pieces versus really bad ones. Like, I'll give up pawns every day for this type of shit. But the problem with that is that it has to work where you're down a pawn. So e5, logical, blocking the boys. F6 would be pretty fucked up looking, I think. So I don't think he was ever gonna play that. The problem with e5, I thought, was that knight c5 is now possible because he blocked off my horsey, and now he has to go bishop c8. And like, this position looks so good, like rook a to d1, right? Wrong. I mean, I'm down a pawn. I'm down a pawn. You sacked a pawn for this position, so the evaluation reflects that. He has something in turn for his stupid pieces. I have to remember this. I have to value pawns a little bit. But in my head, I'm just crushing the boy. He played knight d7, which I didn't really anticipate, and I got slightly annoyed at. Because if his knight gets to f6, then his pieces are starting to be less stupid. Don't really want to trade anything because that helps the side with less space and worse pieces, and who's up a pawn. So I went back. He went queen e6. I go c5. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, I'm just trying to really hammer into the d6 square. And then he goes f6. What do we think the evaluation is now? Let's see if we're all on the same page about this position, that, you know, like how I was in the game. That's an insane move. That's what I thought. So It's plus 0.6 now. I go bishop f1, king h8, bishop c4. There's a lot happening here. It's kind of difficult to even really explain everything. This is like one of the most complicated positions I've ever been a part of. I don't know if it even really seems that way at first, so I'll show all the crazy lines we were both looking at. But I like queen e3 here, which I liked a lot. My opponent has a minute on the clock here, and he's only on move 26. He has to get to move 40 to get his extra 30 minutes. And I think I had something like, I don't know, 25 minutes here. And I played queen e3, I'm defending this, and my whole idea is that I want to play knight takes f6 followed by queen takes h6 if he moves the knight. So I'm kind of threatening rook takes d7 followed by knight takes f6 winning. Again, because when I take on h6, that will be checkmate. So that is my idea behind queen e3. Queen e3, he played this move knight f8 instantly. It's the best move by far. Played it with no time on his clock because he can block knight h7, which is super fucking annoying. Instead, I should just go knight d6, something more positional. Bishop takes d6, rook takes d6. And I don't think I'm getting an attack. Like, maybe I am with f4, but I think it's like the play should be slower than I anticipated. I think because he had no time and he was making weaknesses around his king and playing like semi-random moves, it felt like the attack was coming. And plus it seemed like all of my pieces were involved in the attack. So here's the fucked up thing. Let me put you in my shoes for a minute. POV. Your opponent has 18 seconds left and has to make, 14 moves to get time control. You have to make 14 moves to make time control, but you have 20 minutes here. What do you play? And how long do you think? You gotta calculate a lot of different things. Knight d6, no time. Knight d6 automatic. So, and also, what is the evaluation of this position? I wanna know. Again. What do we think? I had 20 minutes left here. Okay, that's plenty. Like, we could just flag the boy, kind of. He has a 30-second delay. Evaluation, yes. Alright. So here are the things we have to calculate. Alright, number one, knight takes f6, g takes f6, queen takes h6, knight h7. This doesn't really seem like it's working because he's always going to have queen g7. So that can be kind of discarded pretty quickly. The other thing I had to think about was knight d6. I also tried to get rook d6 to work. And I wanted to have time to take this way. And the hell was my idea here? I had an idea. What the hell was my idea? Oh yeah, that was another thing that I thought about. Another thing I thought about was bishop f7 here, and after rook e7, then knight takes f6. Wait, what was the idea? It's tough, man. It's tough to remember the crazy shit that was going through my head. What was the point of this? Something about moving the rook off of the back rank. He still has this, though. I don't know, man. Like, I should have written down the lines that we were analyzing. Yeah, I tried to get rook d6 to work. I wanted to take with the pawn, but then he goes bishop e6, and then the light squares don't work out. I wanted to play f4, but he takes. It's like, what? Why did I want to play that? But I wanted to open my dark squared bishop, and I couldn't. Knight d6 I didn't like because after bishop takes d6, like, what do I take with? If I take with the pawn, he plays bishop e6, and I'm probably going to end up losing this, and then I'm going to be down 2 pawns, and I'm just going to lose. Like, nothing looks good. Nothing looks good. What happened to me in this position, I didn't do anything, like, really wrong or terrible this entire game. I made a few inaccuracies. At this point in time, I spent 19 of my 20 minutes and played the move f3. Because I couldn't, nothing else was working for me. And, like, after the game, I was like, wow, I spent 20 minutes and I played the move f3, and then I lost my bullet game. And I'll show that. But you know the shocking thing? f3 is the best move here. I was so fucking shocked to find that out. But it makes some sense, because it's true. Nothing else works. You can find the best move in multiple different ways. You can find the best move because, you know, you're good at chess and you're like, oh, that looks like a good move. Or you can eliminate literally every other legal move first until you're left with that one. And that's how I found f3. Why shocked? Because it just doesn't really do anything, and I felt like I had to do something because look at the weird things he's doing. And after queen g6, I go knight d6, which is also best, and we're playing bullet at this point. Bishop takes d6, and I take with the rook. I'm still not doing well if I take with the pawn, but I didn't get enough for my pawn. Like, I didn't understand where I went wrong, and I don't know. So it was something happened. My score sheet was very messed up, and I lost my bullet game. But like, what was my huge mistake? You know? So apparently, okay, so bishop c4 is where the evaluation shifts from I'm better to he's better. I have to play f4 or knight d6, because this just sort of helps him get his queen active. And it doesn't, he already moved his king, like, I don't know, bishop c4, bishop c4. It doesn't look like that bad of a move, but I feel like it's what lost me the game, because it got me to a position where I just didn't really have a good move, to the point where, like, why is it good not playing knight d6, like, instead of f3? Because I'm down a pawn. This is why we shouldn't sacrifice pawns for fun, unless there's, like, a real reason for it. Because it just made my life harder. Like, I'm trying to win this game on legendary mode. Legendary difficulty. When I didn't have to. If I had a pawn here, I would be doing fine. I'd be much, much better if I had an extra pawn. But already, and queen e3 wasn't that great either. Again, I should do this. Oh, but not even that. Here I take with the rook. I don't know, like, I can't even really describe the feeling I had when this game ended. I wasn't upset. I just, like, was like, I don't know what happened. It just felt like my position was good for so long, and then I just didn't have a good move, you know? I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have taken the elephant off the diagonal. What? My time management at the end was probably... Yeah, spending 20 minutes and then playing f3 was bad, but... because then I played random moves kind of for the rest of the game. And, now I play f4. Like, what is this? And I hung that, and then... I don't know, more moves happened and it got worse, but... Like, I wasn't upset, I was just really confused. Because it's kind of, I felt a little gaslit. Like, I just thought my position was good, and I didn't understand why that was so difficult. I did feel better when I found out f3 was good and that nothing else was... It just really felt like I couldn't commit to anything. That's kind of what I was feeling, that there was a good move here, that there was a good move here, and I just couldn't find it. But it wasn't my fault that I couldn't find a good move here. There just wasn't one. So I don't know. I just shouldn't sacrifice pawns for fun in games where that I actually care if I win. Like, that's something I should do in Blitz and Rapid, but I shouldn't be upset about the result if I'm playing for fun, basically. Like, if I'm playing moves specifically for the purpose of making the game more interesting and fun to me, I shouldn't be upset when I lose because the game was more interesting and I had to spend more time. I don't know. I just can't have I can't have everything I want, I think. I don't know. Who the hell knows?